Cindy. That's good stuff. I wanted Cindy to come talk about the soil home side because it is. I mean, we're just going to run into it this year. The story about not planting last year, the guy in Central South Dakota, and then not planting winter wheat because it was dry, not planting now. I mean, that's the cycle where we don't want to get into that cycle again. So, and I'm going to touch on that as we go about this whole cover crop talk here. So. We got these mics on because there's a lot of people that, well, obviously we capped down our maximum people that we could invite here or have come. So a lot of people that we're going to send a link to on YouTube. So that's why we're going to mic up and send them this video link here. But so what we're going to go over is really this handout here. What are your options as far as cover crop mixes, making feed go? And I really do want to talk about this in the sense of this is going to be a first time for lots of people as far as planting cover crops goes. It doesn't have to be as scary as it seems. It doesn't have to be different. We're going to try to make this as simple as possible, to cover as many acres as possible, to keep us in the same farming practices that we can get into next year, okay? It's an off year. It's going to be a 2019 that we talk about for many, many years. We're going to do some cover crops, and then next year our soil is going to be in better shape because we did something good for it, okay? And we worked our budgets and we ran our numbers and we're sitting okay financially because we did our homework, okay? That's the whole purpose of this meeting. Okay, so cover crops, not something new, right? We've done green manure crops for many, many years. We don't talk about them as a green manure crop like we did, in the 40s, 50s, 60s. That was something that we planted, yellow Boston sweet clover and forage sorghum, and we planted it. And it grew, and then we plowed it down, right? And that was our nitrogen source for the year. That was our green manure as it started to decompose. Before we had commercial fertilizer, that was a typical farming practice, okay? All right? Cover crop was used to just prevent erosion. If we had highly erodible soil, we knew that we always had to keep it covered so that we weren't having runoff issues, wind erosion issues. That's what that cover crop did. And then a catch crop was just something that we planted in between our cash crop rotation, okay? So this whole concept isn't new. So we're bringing back a few little of the old practices, tying them in with the new species that we're using, and we're making it all into this whole cover crop talk conversation. All right, why they will work. Number one, we have to suppress weeds, okay? We're going to get weeds to grow. We'll have awesome fields of water hemp if we don't do anything. We'll make really good fields of kochia as we move west. They're going to come, I guarantee it. We're going to have to do something for weed control before we plant a cover crop too, okay? Because a lot of these aren't going to be planted until late June, first part of July. All right. We will alleviate compaction anytime we have a living root. We're opening up these soils. Many of these low ground soils that we have right now, I made the comment how many gallons of water we're holding. They're extremely saturated. They're full and they're getting tight. Okay. If we do dry out, we're going to see those soils turn really, really hard, and so we want a living root on those. Okay. Keep that biology moving forward so that we don't have that compaction issue. Organic matter is a huge thing that we can put some dollars and cents to. We're going to fix nitrogen if we allow some legumes to be put into our cover crop mix. Another great way to pencil out putting the cover crop in. Any living root's going to infiltrate water. We know that crops will use water as well. Okay. And you like this, we hope to do some of that. Talk about erosion control, salinity management, and then we're going to talk a lot about forage. All right, so this front page here, we're going to go through these 4 options and why they might make sense for you. So this is the option as if I now decided on these acres I'm going to have a prevent plant claim. I'm going to receive 100% of that payment, and I'm not going to touch it until after the 1st of November. What do I do? Okay, I know that I'm not going to have very many corn stalks to graze if I'm a livestock producer. Okay, that's a real concern. That's how, on this side of the state, that's how we winter cattle from late October all the way to the 1st of January. So what are we going to do for feed for 2.5 months? All right, this is probably a type of blend that we could do. These pictures are actually, this is a PP field a few years ago. Okay, you can see what it looks like the 1st of November. The sorghum sedan grass and the millet will have froze at that time, but those need to be in there because those are high yielding grass species and they're warm seasons, and we're going to be planting this in late June, early July. So they like the heat. They will do well growing at that time of the year. But then we got all that lush green growth of the brassicas underneath there. Those are extremely good quality. Okay, protein ranges on a mix like this are going to be 14 to 22, depending on how much green brassicas you have growing there. Our stocking rate can be up towards 1 head per acre for about 75 days. So that kind of fills our void of that corn stalk void that we don't have to graze. All right. And if we value grazing at $1.50 per head, there's some revenue there as well. Right? That option looks really, really good, and that is kind of the slam dunk way to go if you need grazing acres on your PP. I mean, we're typically, when we do these blends anyways, we're not grazing them till the 1st of November. So this is kind of a typical grazing cover crop mix, and it works really well. Okay. Any questions on that way? Things to use, why it works? All right. Just another picture. You can see grazing after November 1st, what it looks like, and then what it looks like as we're growing through the season. Okay.
Just can I clarify on that, on the preventative plant stuff?
Yep.
So again, no economic gain from the preventative plant after November 1st if someone grazes it, but are you considering the manure that's being deposited economic gain? Okay, perfect. Just wanted to double check.
Another. Yeah.
That's sort of what I meant by there's a pathway through this to find some value either.
There is, but I just wanted to make sure that wasn't going to get somebody hung up.
Yeah.
Perfect. Right, that's true. So.
All right, we talked about what is the next best option, and in my opinion, we're going to talk about a dry hay option. In my opinion, the 1st of November rolls around, we've got plants that still probably have to dry down. Okay, can't chop it, can't take it to silage. It's a bummer because that would work really, really well. But we can make baleage, all right? And wet bales are becoming more popular. There's more and more people that have a tuber or can individually wrap these bales. As long as we put it in a bale, we can take it off the field and use it, okay? So mixes like this that have a little bit of sorghum sudan grass and a little bit of millet actually work really well. Sorghum sudan grass holds its moisture. Both of these are warm season species. They like to be planted in the summer. It will have froze, and that's okay, all right? It's not going to be, your premium high-quality alfalfa hay. But once again, this is a great way to put up a whole lot of feed in a year where we need to make feed anyways. Okay. So this will work. We're going to have about a 50% moisture stand when we go to make this as baleage, and that's where we need to be when we're wrapping bales anyways. About 50% moisture. Okay. All right. If we look at this from just the standpoint of is I don't have livestock, I don't have fences, this is a field that it would be hard to haul bales from, or it's hard to get water at, whatever the situation is, I know that I want to do the best cover crop mix possible to get a legume credit, to get cover on that field. We would recommend a mix similar to our nutrient builder blend. And this is 5 years ago. There was a huge pocket in Blue Earth County and in northeast Iowa, and there was tens of thousands of acres that enrolled into PP, and we put this nutrient builder blend down there, and it worked really, really well. And we did. Go ahead.
Why don't you put a few sunflowers in there to help with the zinc and also for pollinators?
That's a great question. We can put sunflowers in, we can put flax in, we can put phacelia in, we can put any pollinator species in these blends, and we will do lots of blends like this. This is just a guideline of a mix that could be used. Okay. Some people don't want sunflowers because they look like the weeds, so we don't put them in this blend. But we've got them in other blends. Okay. But in that pocket in northeast Iowa, we did this nutrient builder blend, and we did lots of follow-up on those fields, and we were getting a 50 to 70 pound nitrogen credit from that cover crop. Okay. When we think about comparing this to a nitrogen credit from a soybean stand, it would be similar, kind of like that. But we're not taking anything off of it. We harvest soybeans. We're taking, 50 bushels of beans off. We're taking a lot of nitrogen off as we harvest a crop. We're not harvesting anything off of these legumes. Okay, so we're gonna capture any nitrogen that may be in the field from scavenging radishes and oats, and we're gonna build nitrogen with the peas and the clover, the sun hemp, and the vetch. Okay, they're all nitrogen builders. So it is a pretty good way to pencil out paying for your cover crop with some nitrogen credits. And it's a great way to set up your corn crop for that following year. Right?
When would we be seeding that?
I would seed this one anytime in July. Okay, we want it to go pretty early because it gives us more time for the legumes to work, build us more nitrogen. If we get into the late part of June though, the potential for those species to flower, make volunteer seeds is real. And we will have some of that. Nothing in there is not controllable with a pre-emerge or route control. Okay? We're going to have some volunteers next year because of the cover crops, but we're also going to kill them. Okay? We're not going to make a weed infestation with a lot of stuff. So just a picture of legumes working in that blend, and then what it looks like in the fall. Okay, this isn't a blend like our premium grades where we got 6 foot tall stuff and it's a jungle. This is a mixture where it's going to be 2 to maybe 3 foot tall, and it's very manageable if we stick into our conventional tillage system. Okay, whatever you do for your tillage system, whether you're no-tiller or a strip tiller, or you're going to go rip this field, it's something that is workable. Okay, because it's not too much recipe. Yeah. And that's key. Okay.
Can we put that on with a plane?
Can you put it on a plane? Yeah, that's a great question. How do we cover all these acres with cover crops if we don't have or if we got a 10-foot drill? Most of these are small species. It will flow really well if we're broadcasting it, and it doesn't need to be planted any deeper than 3/4 of an inch. Okay, it wants to be planted shallow, so we can broadcast most all these cover crop mixes. If we're putting them on with a plane or a floater or a spinner spreader, I mean, it's always better if we can somehow incorporate it back into the ground, whether it's a drag, a light disc, something to get them into the soil, unless we're still swimming in water and we're getting inches of rain every day. That cover crop's going to grow on top of the soil. So, yes, you can do it with a plane or a float or any other ways to broadcast. So the option for dry hay is probably German millet. And there will be lots of German millet planted, and it probably is the best option for dry hay. It's a warm season once again, and it will freeze, but it's probably still going to have to dry down some. All right, so you might have to get a little lucky the 1st of November, lay it down, let it kind of dry for a day, day and a half, 2 days, and then bale it for dry hay. Oats is the other option, and straw is a big concern, and I didn't put oats up here because everybody's familiar with them, but we're going to be short on corn stalks for bedding, right, and feed. So how do you fill that void? And I think oats is a good option. Like I said earlier, you can spray it. So if you planted oats, let's say you go plant oats, and probably the time to do that is more like late July, first part of August. You go plant oats, you plant 2 bushels of oats, and you just need, and you still have to harvest it after the 1st of November, and you're worried about that being too green, which it probably would be. I would say spray it out in October. Let it die, let it start to dry down. It's going to look like straw, it will be straw, and then you just build up a lot of straw. It's okay, it's something, right? Fill your corn stalk void. That's a field of German millet. After it froze, obviously it's not too late in the year, but it will start to turn brown and it will be completely dead. On any of these cover crop mixes, we started this app, and it's called myseedmix.com, where you can pull species and play with blends and make all sorts of cool mixes, however you want to do them. That's a tool for you guys to use as well. The back page of this is what are your forage options if we do not enroll in PP, or if we enroll it to PP and we decide to harvest it before the 1st of November. Take that 35% of your PP payment and reduce your APH. Okay? Then what do our options look like? And like Brian said, this may not be the best option, but here's what probably is the best option. For people that just need to make feed, regardless of the PP thing, don't take your pre-rep plant payment. Don't reduce your APH. Plant a forage crop and manage it like a forage crop. And I think you'll see here that there actually are some decent revenue opportunities for some warm season annual forages this time of year. Okay, so forage sorghum is just that. Okay, if you're thinking it's getting too late for corn silage, and for corn silage it's probably not too late. Go plant corn and chop it. Okay, do it. But if you want to plant forage sorghum, that is an option. It's not going to yield quite as high as corn, and you're not going to have your TDN levels as high as corn, but you would have a little bit higher protein silage, maybe capture 15 to 18 ton of silage per acre, and we can probably value that at $30 a ton. Forage sorghum is a good silage option. Teff grass is probably one of the better haying options, and teff grass should be planted early, as early as you can get in the field in June. Go plant teff grass. It'll give you 2, maybe 3 cuttings of hay, and this is probably the most marketable product. Okay, so once again, if you do not take your PP payment, and you say, I'm just going to make hay, because the value of hay is actually not $140 a ton right now, it's $190 to $200 a ton right now. The hay market stays strong. This is a great option. Okay, we can put up a a marketable product, 3 to 4 tons worth of hay, not silage, hay, and that's another really good revenue opportunity.
How much nutrients will that remove?
Walker, how much nutrients will a teff grass remove?
I think for warm season grasses in general, the phosphorus is on the lower end. I think it's about 9 pounds per ton for that stuff. The nitrogen, I think that ranges about 45 pounds per ton. The potassium is similar to nitrogen, maybe about 45 pounds per ton as well. So on a ton basis, when you look at it, tons removed from the actual field itself, 45 pounds of nitrogen, 9 pounds of phosphorus, 45 pounds of potassium.
So Walker Sheik is our agronomist. He's been on about a year now, and he's a whiz on all your cover crop chemical questions and fertilizer questions. He's a man. Thanks, Walker. So the other option for just making hay, if you want just a higher yielding product that's not as finicky as teff grass, and you want to put up lots of tons, probably Japanese or pearl millet. Probably not as marketable, but if you're living on farm storage reserves and you're feeding it yourself, Japanese or pearl millet is the millet to use because you can get probably 2 cuttings worth of hay in this. Okay. So the bottom line of this whole talk is anything can be a cover crop, and anything growing on your soil is better than nothing. Right? And I think everybody gets that. We want to keep soil covered, and this is probably, if you're a cattle producer, this is probably your silver lining on the year is let's take advantage of it. And I'm not saying that's a good thing, but let's take advantage of this bad situation and put up 2 years worth of feed. And that's really where I think we're at. And the one thing, if you've got livestock, that's probably the thing to do now. Next steps is Brian mentioned this, and I think it's really true, is what the economic benefit's going to be like for all these communities and stuff, and it is real, and it's real. I mean, we've got a lot of people representing co-ops and elevators and seed companies and people that sell corn and soybeans and fertilizer and chemical. This sucks. This is horrible. This is like the worst situation that we could ever possibly have, and so we want to help them sell as many cover crops as possible, so that they can make some of those acres up. So seriously, support your local cover crop dealers, purchase seed from them, and make sure that keep those guys around, because next year we have to have them there again.
The teff grass, or any of the other stuff we talked about, how much of that is that like a one season thing?
Yeah, so the teff grass is an annual, and the first frost is going to kill it. So it's going to grow really, really fast through the heat of the summer. The more heat we get, the better it does. So our first, let's say we've got it planted the 15th of June. First cutting is going to come about 60 days after that. So that puts us into August. We're going to take a cutting 20 days after that and 20 days after that, if we're lucky, in September. And then it's dead. Yeah.
What's the supply on all this stuff? All of us in the room decide to go cover crops.
Yeah, all of you in this room multiplied by thousands. It's going to get tight. We've really stuck our necks out on supply and have really tried to purchase as much cover crop seed as possible and oat seed as possible. So we're sitting really, really good, okay? But it's going to go fast. So I guess what we're telling people is when May 31st rolls around, or May 25th, and you decide to enroll 500 acres into prevent plant, and you have a plan for this 100 acres and this 100 acres, get that plan put together and get your seed on order. We'll allocate inventory to people, and you will have that allocated to you, and you will get that seed. Make sense? German millet's really short, sorghum Sudan's really short, forage sorghum's short, oats are short. Radishes and turnip are going to cover lots of acres because it only takes a few pounds per acre, so we'll cover a lot of acres.
Justin, I got a question for the guys who have corn acres fertilized, but they're not gonna get planted in corn. So they got a ton of nitrogen out there. Is there anything we gotta look out for? These cover crops, stuff that's gonna grow fast and get old as quickly?
Sure. On the forage side, there's the concern with nitrate issue. and that's real, and that, I mean, if we got fertilized for corn, you would definitely, and you're gonna take that for feed, you really might have a nitrate concern, you really might. On the cover crop side of stuff, I would plant, if you weren't gonna take it for feed, I would plant something to try to scavenge as many pounds of nitrogen as possible. Radishes are the best scavengers, but so are, I mean, any grasses are good scavengers. Okay, so we'll do a lot of blends with oats and radishes for those acres. It's gonna be cheap. We can cover lots of acres with those two species. You can broadcast those two things together. It works really well. So that's probably what I would recommend if they're not going to take it for feed. They want to scavenge nitrogen, oats and radishes. And a bushel of oats with 2 to 3 pounds of radishes works really well. Yeah.
So to the opposite of that, what if we have corn acres that should be corn but haven't been fertilized yet? Would a hay option be best there?
Haven't been fertilized yet.
Yeah.
Are you wondering if you should put fertilizer on?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
should we put fertilizer on before we would do like a silage?
Right.
Or sorghum or whatever?
Yep. If your intentions, I would still manage that crop as it was its own crop. So if you were going to put forage sorghum in to chop it, we'll use a fertilizer recommendation of about 75% of corn. So we would want to fertilize it. If you're going to plant teff grass, what Walker said about its nutrient requirements. If you're planting a cover crop with no intentions of using it for feed and getting as much biomass as possible, probably don't need to fertilize it. You don't. Yep.
Like the nutrient builder, what would you spray on that in season to control weeds?
Nothing. Yep. Can't,
Control the
herbicide
weeds
option?
before you plant it.
Yep.
Control the weeds before you plant it.
Do your burn down and then plant. And really I'm not saying you won't have any escapes, but they will stay really clean because of just the canopy that those type of blends put out. They'll smother about every week.
Is there a pre you can put on that won't affect?
No. Because we've got those legumes in there and about any pre is gonna just Roundup. If you have to use a 240 or a Clarity or a Dicamba, then we're out, 10 days, 2 weeks?
Yeah, you figure about up in that camp, 2 days to every ounce.
Yeah.
And about a day for ounce, 50 per day.
Matt?
Your list of items that were short supply, can you review that again, please?
Yeah. German millet. Where are they going? I gotta get this. Sorghum sedan grass. Forage sorghum. Oats, kind of. There'll be a lot, the oat market's funny because there'll be a lot of, feed oats planted for seed oats, imagine.
How many of them microorganisms are we gonna lose if we don't do anything?
Ooh. Cindy? What else?
So beat down
We're probably losing it right now.
I don't know if I can give you enough.
I got it.
Top.
It would teach you, so say you just need a black, and you have a full shield of it, shouldn't be that much involved for them to come back.
There's a strip till situation where you don't want to put in the ground, you don't keep my weeds up like this, so you have 25 acres of covered. So you have plenty of, that's it.
Better situation. Feels like even without a living wood, it's good. The living wood is how they react. That's how you're going to build it. Anytime you take it around, you'll have it growing, the longer it is, the harder it is.
Yeah.
$10 to 15%.
You're going to affect that because of the biology.
Yeah.
You leave it, it's going to keep there. There's nothing there to help you with the next year's crop. So you're going to take a hit on your yield for the following year because there's nothing growing out there in order for you to have that biology active.
Yeah, I referenced the years when we had thousands of acres of PP in northeast Iowa. and we did all this nutrient builder blend. The cool thing that happened there is I mean, everybody started thinking differently, right? And that was a pocket. Nobody. I mean, that's conventional tillage, hardcore corn, soybean, awesome ground, really productive stuff, and that's one of our, still to this date, is one of our biggest cover crop using places. So everybody that planted a cover crop there went and planted their corn crop on those acres that next year, got a big yield bump, and went, whoa, what happened here? This is cool. And now they continue to use cover crops. So that's a pretty cool thing, I
So
guess.
you have a perfect opportunity.
Yeah.
To increase, I mean, this year, look for forward.
Yeah. Hey, Dennis.
Yeah, so say you wanna cereal rye or something over winter, so what would be your best option if you got PP acres to make that happen?
I would hold off a little bit before I planted cereal rye. If you plant it too early, it's probably not going to survive the winter because it's going to act goofy. Rye likes to just hang out through the fall and then vernalize and then grow up in the spring because it's a winter annual. So if you plant it too early, you're going to see some bolt and that's
So
going to
you
kill
plant
off.
something else first and then come in cereal
I
rye, or
don't think so. I'd put it in a mix of stuff and I'd plant it probably August. I wouldn't be afraid to plant cereal rye 1st of August. It's probably going to make it. But I wouldn't plant it in June or July.
But if you got it next, it shouldn't matter.
Yeah, that'll help. Yeah.
What's a good nutrient builder if you're gonna go back to like beans and some of these acres aren't gonna go back to corn, not quite as much about the nitrogen credit, which needs something to use up moisture, keep some.
Yeah. Like I said earlier, the oat radish blend is pretty cool. But we'll do, if you wanted to make it even more diverse, I really like flax. As far as a soil builder, higher residue type of a plant. We've got to have talk about residue concerns, we do want more residue on these acres, especially if they work for fall tillage or spring tillage. Flax is a cool one to put in there too. Radish, we'll use maybe just a smaller dose of sorghum sudan grass or a smaller dose of a crimson clover vetch. We'll pull down the legumes and use more grasses and brassicas.
Economically on that, similar cost wise.
Yeah, so if like oat radish blend is probably going to be one of the cheaper blends and will be $12 to $15 an acre, depending on how much beet you want. That's it. Oh,
So you can't lease the ground, be harvested by cattlemen. What if you bought feeder calves to harvest it for those 90 days
it's a great option.
or 60 days?
Brian just said, yeah.
And then you own the animals and then sell them.
Yeah, putting gain on calves is the best way to pencil this out. I mean, if you can put the value of a cost, your value per pound of gain at $1.20,
I'd be,
and
I'd
then
gain
you gain
2.5
3
pounds a day.
and you get 75 days of grazing in the fall.
So like that millet mix, you could graze it instead of hay it?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep. What, Brian?
I'm just gonna make a comment too, this is all about the best plant this year, but if you get into a normal year, there's none of those rules about having extra economic benefits. So if you get in a normal year, you can plant your cover crop after it. Wouldn't it be cool to have huge fields of rye right now and your cattle out grazing on them? I mean, that's a game changer, right?
And we always say soil organic matter, that's kind of nature's crop insurance. So that's why you want to, at this time, you want to be building that in order to help you down the road. Just like Brian said, you want to look forward and try to get the best opportunities that we can create from the mess that we have.
I've gotten done with some of these meetings, and the mood is just more depressing than it even started, right? Like, people, it's the worst thing in the world. And I've gotten done with some of these meetings, everyone's like, oh, sweet, we're going to change, we're going to do something different, this is a great opportunity for me. So this is the time, I mean, if you're thinking about doing something different or looking at the positives of this, I guess, make sure your dollars and cents work, do your math right, and then try to figure out the best possibilities to make even more money. That's where you should go forward.
And the nice thing is you can still do what you want to do by growing something.
Exactly.
You know, you're growing something. That's what you're,
Yep.
your intentions were in the start is to plant something to grow. Well, you can't maybe harvest it, but
Yeah.
you can still grow it.
Exactly.
It's in our DNA.
Right, that's why you do what you do.
Yep.
If you're a farmer, you farm it because you love to grow
Because
things.
you like to
and-
do it, that's exactly right, yeah. Yep.